You know, this is a sad fate of Kai's second ace from the other clans, Vermillion, as I feel every time we get the blood, it's always either very wacky or very underwhelming.
Emotional damage!
This
Iteration of the Blood
falls into the latter bracket for me, and I'll be honest, it is one of the situations where minor fix could have made this card way better.
Why?
Well, Vermillion does take a very different approach into controlling compared to other decks in the same nation, in the sense that he actually guaranteed to retire Vanguard because he's battling it. Unless your opponent has a 3 PGs, Vermillion is more or less gonna kill at least 2 Vanguards. And not only that, the current version of Vermillion is also able to bind a card thanks to Eternal Thunderbolt, which does chain into other cards like Rising Phoenix, which revives itself back, enabling another attack, or Sparkling Lance Dragon, I think that's the name, that allow you to get more power if your Vanguard hit at least twice in that single turn. The problem with this particular playstyle, in my opinion, is that a lot of cards are strong individually, but the deck has a terrible time of fetching it. This is something that I feel is consistent with most of the Dragon Empire decks, where a lot of deck has a strong control and aggression, but is very bad at cycling resource. But for Vermillion case, is a lot more worse because some of the strongest support, or at least easy to put in support in Dragon Empire, is relying you on being an overlord. So the generics are not that compatible with the Vermillion itself, on top of the fact that the deck needs multiple copy of these key pieces. Meanwhile, also is very so heavy thanks to Rising Phoenix, and the deck also gets easily shut down by one single defensive thanks to the fact that Rising Phoenix is a great one. So a lot of problem to solve. Does the blood actually solve any of those problems? Well, it does fix one, but just like its moniker, it is a double-edged sword, as we have Dragonic, Kaiser, Vermillion the Blood.
Cringe.
This unit has 3 skills, where if you have the original Vermillion in soul, this unit get 5k, but if your opponent Vanguard is greater or greater, this unit also get additional crit, and your Fondo Vanguard also get additional 5k as well. Then act once per turn Soul Blast 1 until end of turn. When this unit would attack, choose 2 of your opponent Vanguard circle, and this unit battle all of the unit on the chosen Vanguard circle and your opponent Vanguard. Then last but certainly kinda least, at the end of the battle this unit attack, if you play normal order this turn and your opponent damage zone is 4 or less, you can discard a card from your hand and inflict 1 damage. Do you guys notice something? This is just the same Vermillion with a slightly different effect, and I feel in certain cases it might be worse. You see, the original skill, the skill that enables Vermillion to hit multiple units, is a counterblast, but it does give you additional 5k to 2 different units on the field. And you know what, turning that additional power into a consistent power gaining is actually very helpful, considering all the power boost you're gonna need to buff those Rising Phoenix. And on top of that, turning a counterblast into a Soul Blast is not a bad thing. I mean, now the deck has enough counterblast to focus on other cards that does do a better job at using a counterblast. And in general, I would say it is definitely the Vermillion refined to a slightly better version of him. But here's a problem. It introduced nothing new to the deck. This is just a better version of Vermillion, and it doesn't introduce anything that is beneficial enough for the deck to be better. And to make things worse, you are at a risk of even more bricking because you are forced to run a true brick in this deck. At least Glory is able to use original Maelstrom in some way or another. This unit has 0 ways of utilizing it, but at the same time has no choice but to run bricks in your deck. And also changing it into a Soul Blast also means that you are gonna be demanding more soul as well. Fortunately enough, 2 of the new support does help to fix the soul issue to an extent, as we have Demonic Dragon named Kashin. This unit has 3 skills, where the first skill is the usual, if your Vanguard is Narukami, is a Narukami. Then the second ability is the exact same as Illiquid Thrust, the Maelstrom Searcher, where when placed on Rekka Circle from hand,
Wait a minute!
If you have a Vanguard with only Narukami for his clan, look at the top 7 cards of your deck, choose up to 1 card with Vermillion in its name and only Narukami for his clan, or up to 1 Eternal Thunderbolt from among them, review it and put into hand and shuffle the deck. If you review a card, choose a card from your hand and put into soul or discard it. And then the last skill, when using the attack, if you have greater or greater Vanguard with Vermillion in its card name and only Narukami for his clan, counterblast 1 this unit get 10k until end of that battle, but bind this unit at the end of that battle. This unit is, in honesty, a really good card. Like, even if you chose not to run the blood, you can run this in original Vermillion just fine and it will work very well, as not only this card help you to fill up the soul, but it also help to filter the most annoying part of the deck, fetching the Personal Right or Eternal Thunderbolt. And at the same time, having ability to be a beast stick regardless of your opponent being grade 3 or not is really helpful, and the self bind is helpful for calling back Rising Phoenix as well. So I feel this card is just really good, though I do feel that it should have expand its search range into all Narukami units, considering the fact that unlike Glory Maelstrom, Vermillion doesn't have a lot of recursion, and unlike Illichrinist that can trigger the skill regardless of whether it plays from hand or whatever, this card has to be placed from hand. So I feel a little bit more of a stronger effect is more appreciated. But fortunately enough for Vermillion, Kashin is not the only card that does help with Vermillion. So as we have our usual clan generic for this booster, Velocity Dragon, more or less the same condition as other clan generic we have seen so far. So I'm just gonna be focusing on the last 2 skills. So when the skill is unlocked, when this unit placed on Reka Circle, you can energy blast 3, put a card from hand to soul, and
draw 2 more cards.
Then auto on Reka Circle, when your Vanguard attack, this unit get power plus 5k until end of turn. So I think you guys can see where I'm coming from for helping to fix the soul issue with the blood, but at the same time, this unit is a way risky unit to run because it's not a Narukami unit, it's a Kagero unit, which means that all the search capability that this deck can do now is not able to fetch this card. You have to hard draw it. So sometimes you do want to run into Latifa and such, but unfortunately, because of the amount of bricks you have to run in your deck necessarily, this
compromise the deck space.
Overall, I do feel they're trying to give the same exact support that Glory received to Vermillion without taking into consideration that Vermillion doesn't have recursion, and because of that, the support became kinda mid. Like genuinely, it is very mid. And you know what? They are being very consistent with how smooth brain they designed Dragon Empire card this year. Like, it's either simple but really good or simple but still terrible. So what do you guys think? Do leave down the comments below as usual, and that's all I have for today. Take care of yourself, don't forget to clap that sub and become a member for some cool perks. And this is Mac Mechanic signing out.
Boom, boom, boom. Boom, boom, boom.